Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this Ag Forecast brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Well, I've been getting a ton of great questions about the fires in California, what's been causing them, what are these things called Santa Ana winds. So let's talk about this for maybe the first minute of this video. Unbelievable image here taken by one of our astronauts, Randy Bresnik here, just showing the extent of the smoke plumes of the fires in Southern California blowing off there into the Pacific Ocean. So let's talk about what creates the Santa Ana wind and why Californians fear how this works. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the flow of the jet stream for Wednesday. Now what we call this a high over low pattern. So we have this huge ridge that's just basically reaching all the way up in northern Canada into Alaska, and it's plunging into a broad trough here across the eastern half of the country. So this is why the eastern half of the country is cold. And this is why there's very active weather in the southern United States. But California all the way to Washington has been shut down in terms of precipitation because of this flow pattern, which splits. Some goes to the north and some goes to the south. So this is the polar branch of the jet stream and the subtropical branch down here. Now, I yanked this directly out of my notes that I teach at the University of Illinois, so check it out. When I'm teaching my students about drought out west, I say, watch out for this pattern, high over low in the jet stream. See that? Looks almost identical to what you just saw. Why we care so much about that is it tends to produce in this area right here an anomalously eastern wind due to high pressure at the surface developing right here where I'm pointing the cursor. And this is what I'm talking about. You see, whenever a big dome of high pressure settles in here in parts of Nevada or kind of the inner mountain west, the airflow out of it, basically at the surface, it spirals clockwise and flows just like this. Now the consequence of that is that this air that's descending over that high is doing so over a desert. And as that air blows across the Mojave Desert and gets lifted over the San Gabriel Mountains here and goes back down the other side, it's what we call a katabatic wind. And it is incredibly dry, relative humidities measured in the single digits. And that wind, as it basically descends the mountains, compressionally warms and picks up speed and then goes blowing across the LA basin. And as it does that, you get pictures like this. Now, this is oriented with north on the bottom and south this way. So this is, again, another picture from our astronaut here. You can just see the winds coming right over the top of the mountains and descending like that, creating these fires. And they have been absolutely incredible to watch. Here's just some footage I saw of these fires on Wednesday night, just raging here in Southern California. Now, is that pattern going anywhere? Is it breaking down? You're going to watch here the next 384 hours. That's more than 16 days. You're watching the forecast of the flow of the jet stream. Basically, in the short term, the answer is no. Here's a quick look at Friday. Let's start there. See, huge ridge out west. Deep plunging trough here over the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes, and the pattern is really just highly amplified at this time. Now what this means is that the cold air that's in place here over the eastern half of the country does have some staying power, but what I really want to focus on more in the short term, because I think this colder pattern is going to hang on for the majority of the month of December out east with the warmth out west. By the way, just a quick note here, looks like it's going to split the part of the Corn Belt. I think if you kind of just divide the Corn Belt, or maybe the central United States with the line I'm drawing right here, the eastern half of that's going to be colder than average and the western is going to be warmer than average. That's right where the dividing line is going to be. So let's talk about what this is going to do in the short term first, and we'll kind of take a look at the longer term implications. Let me show you something new here. As an atmospheric scientist, one of the things that I constantly have to monitor is a quantity called vorticity. And to make a really long lesson in meteorology very short, anytime we have what's called cyclonic flow, that's where the atmosphere is spinning counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, it basically allows the atmosphere to lift air. When you get air to rise, you get clouds and precipitation. Now check this out. As I get into, here's Thursday, I get into Friday. This thing right here is the one I'm concerned about. You see, this is a little shortwave trough kind of orbiting around the broader trough that's sitting over the Hudson Bay. What I want you to see is that through Friday into Saturday, that little thing digs right on through, let's call it the eastern half of the Corn Belt. Now, out ahead of this ribbon of vorticity, we're going to be lifting some air. And if you lift really, cold air this time of year, you're going to be able to produce some snow. And so that is just one of the many, what we call clipper systems that are going to be racing around this trough for the next several days, bringing multiple chances for, snow showers here across the eastern half of the Corn Belt, really the higher river valley. Here's what it looks like. Check this out. This is in Thursday. Now we're into Friday. Right there. See it go through the Great Lakes? That's our clipper. Let me get back here to Thursday, getting into Friday. Watch this again. Here we go. That little shortwave trough with the leading edge here of that really higher vorticity values. Here we go. This is Friday at 1 p.m., Friday at 7 p.m. This is now early morning, 1 a.m. on Saturday. See it right there. A little low pressure system develops. We call that again a clipper system, and it's going to be producing some snow from Wisconsin through parts of Illinois into Indiana, of course, Michigan, and getting over into Iowa and eventually off to the northeast. Also expecting to see quite a bit of lake effect snow out of this. Now, what was interesting, which you may have missed, will be the kind of the fun weather that's going to be way down in the southeastern United States. You see, we may have enough cold air on the backside of this broad shield of precipitation here that some of this may come in as snow. So that's going to be very, very interesting to look out for. If we just look over the next 10 days and kind of accumulate all the precipitation here, I want to just make one point. Because that deeper trough is staying here over the Hudson Bay and the Great Lakes, we're going to be leaving a lot of the middle part of the country rather dry over the next 10 days. And we're concerned about this because this area has already been dry for the last almost 60 days. And we just got to watch that throughout winter. But I'll just show you some of this precipitation accumulating down here might come in the form of snow. And here is your 72-hour map that shows you the probability of accumulating at least 2 inches or more of snow. So clearly on the downwind side of our lakes, we're going to be getting some lake effect snow and some heavy snowfall amounts here. But what you can see is through parts of Wisconsin into northern Illinois, then certainly getting into Indiana and Ohio and Michigan, we've got a halfway decent chance, better than, let's call it a 60 to 90% chance in some locations of at least seeing a couple of inches of snow. I don't know how far south that's going to extend. It doesn't look like it's going to extend much beyond, let's call this, I-74 in through here. I don't think we're going to get much farther south than that in terms of our chances of seeing some snow, or at least some snow that has some staying power. But also notice this, there is that chance for precip coming down as snow here in parts of the south. And for my viewers in the south, you can't handle this. This is, if we do get some snow there, it's going to be a pretty tough weekend on the, or start to the weekend on the roads. Okay, let's turn our attention very quickly at the end of this video toward South America. Map is looking at the last 30 days of accumulated precipitation in terms of percent of normal. I just want to point a few things out to you before we hone in on South America. One part of China's growing regions here at the start of winter are dry. India is very dry over the last 30 days. Russian wheat belt has been wet, so that may mean halfway decent news for the Russian wheat belt. Also, most of the EU has been a little bit wetter than average. Our northwest has been wet, but look at the dry anomalies running through the middle part of the country here. So this is important to be watching all the rest of winter. But if we get down to South America, we have been talking about now for a couple of weeks about how strong the South American convergence zone is set up, which is why this region in through here has been reporting very wet. It's been dry on the south side of that, so getting down to the Brazil southern growing regions and northern Argentina, you can see the dry bias down here. Well, in the short term, that same pattern just stays. You can see the heavy rains forecast over the next 10 days in through this region. But I want you to know something. Even though it looks as though it's going to be getting quite a bit of rain in parts of Mato Grosso do Sul, getting into Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul, this is actually a pretty dry bias over the next 10 days. So this is not the kind of rains that they would want to get this time of year. This is a little bit drier than average. And then certainly parts of Argentina aren't going to be seeing their next chance of precipitation, for at least 7 to 8 days. And so this is a dry pattern in the short term. So they're going to be depending a lot here on soil moisture to kind of get through this time period, which is pretty crucial as we move toward January and kind of some of the first harvesting in South America. So I just want to kind of bring your attention to what's going on in South America. Again, the South American convergence zone is really going. What'll be important around mid-month, I'll get some great long-range updates from our global models. And the past month, they were calling for this area here, the eastern half of Brazil's major growing regions, to come in dry for January, February, and March. So we got to see if that's still in the cards for the forecast. There are certainly some meteorological reasons as to why that should happen, given the broad extent of the La Nina that's off the the west coast of South America. The colder waters extending all along the west coast, and that pattern tends to set up a dry Brazil for the remainder of their growing season. But we'll get you all those updates as they come to us over the next few weeks, and look forward to talking to you each Monday and Thursday between now and as we get to the beginning of our new year. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast. It'll come out on Monday. Good morning farm report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows you a snapshot of your field conditions each morning. Go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for that free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our sustainable yield program or for growers who work with AD merchandisers. Look forward to talking again after the weekend.